The night my roof blew up, I was smack in the middle of a dream about mowing the lawn. Cold beer sweating in my hand, sun frying my shoulders, the whole 9 yards, which is kind of hilarious if you know why this mess started in the first place. 3 months before all hell broke loose, I'd finally sat down with a stack of bills, did the numbers, and realized the sun beating down on our little chunk of Arizona wasn't just turning my yard into toast, it was free money, and I'd been ignoring it for years. So, I called a company. No big hero moment, just a regular dude sick of bleeding cash. To a power plant 100 miles away, and after a couple of visits, a handshake, and a look at my roof, we locked in a plan for solar. It was all pretty by the book. I'm not the rebel type, you know? Mortgage, stubborn old dog, one faded grill in the backyard. I even read our Cedar Ridge Meadows HOA bylaws front to back. Not a peep about solar panels. We had rules for mailbox fonts and the acceptable length of artificial turf, but nothing about sticking some glass on your roof. I signed. Crew came out on a windy Thursday, bolted those slick, black rectangles across my shingles until my place looked like a giant iPhone lost in the desert. Honestly, I thought it looked sharp, clean, future-forward, like the house finally put on a tux. 2 days later, my doorbell rings. There's Brent Sawyer, the HOA president, king of the clipboard, shirt tucked so tight I wondered if he owned stock in starch. He didn't even bother with a hello, just stared up at my roof like he was judging a talent show for ugly hats. He goes, "We're going to need you to get those removed." I told him, real polite, that I'd checked the bylaws. Nothing in there against panels. He grunted. "Come on, look around. Nobody else has them. It's visual clutter." Tapped his clipboard like it was the Constitution. I swear, all I could think was, buddy, half this street turns into a circus every December with inflatable reindeer, and you're pressed about a couple rectangles? I stood my ground, maybe even grinned a little because when you're right, it's hard not to. Brent doubled down, property values, neighborhood cohesion, future buyers, code 4. I just want to be the boss. I closed the door as nice as I could and figured, all right, let him mail his nasty letter. I'll appeal, we'll win. But that would have been too easy. Instead, at 2:13 a.m. on a Tuesday, my dog shot up barking like a burglar alarm in a war zone. Then, bam, bam, my house sounded like it got punched by a baseball bat made of thunder. I did what any brave soul does under pressure. Belly flopped to the carpet, crawled to the window, peeked outside. Under the streetlight, I caught a figure. Hunched, arms up, then a flash of orange, another bang, glass spraying off my roof. And, get this, a laugh, quiet but proud, like a job well done. I stayed down, phone shaking in my hand, called 911. By the time the cruiser showed up, the shooter was gone. My roof looked like a windshield after a hailstorm. In the morning, it was a mess, spiderweb cracks, shattered cells, one panel folded like a taco. There were brass shell casings in my bushes, and my dog sniffed one like it was going to bite back. Cop took photos. Did that long sigh you hear when things are both dumb and criminal. Luckily, my camera caught just enough, a figure, a muzzle flash, then nothing because they shot out the camera, too. But the cloud backup worked. Clear as day. The walk, the hat, the HOA polo shirt. Not proof enough for a Netflix doc, but you know what I mean. Next day, I met a lawyer, Amina Patel, sharp as a tack, quiet but fierce. We stacked everything on her table. Bylaws, solar contract. Busted panel photos, little baggie of shells, screenshot of the shooter, Brent's shoulders, unmistakable. She looked at me and said, "Are you ready for this to get loud?" I told her, "It's already loud on my roof." We filed a lawsuit against the HOA, not just a Facebook rant or a yard sign. An honest-to-God lawsuit, plus a police report. Months passed. Brent did what guys like him always do, showed up with a smile and a lawyer, acting like it was nothing personal. At the hearing, he spun the usual. Not permitted, ugly, might hurt property values. Maybe it failed on its own. Sir, I'd call that creative. When it was our turn, Amina didn't grandstand. She just laid down the facts, bylaws, damage, shell casings, the video. Then, as a bonus twist, slid Arizona's solar access law over to the judge. Basically, you can't ban solar unless you want a lawsuit. The judge, Cranston, old school, no nonsense, looked at us over his glasses and said, "Let me get this straight. We're here because a homeowner followed the rules and someone decided to shoot up his roof. He made it clear. HOA pays for repairs, covers my lawyer, and suggests Brent rethink the difference between power and authority. You could feel the oxygen shift in that courtroom. It wasn't just a win. It was a warning. Criminal side, that's for the cops. They called, asked if I could ID the jacket. I told them, I can ID the guy who wore it every third Thursday for 2 years. Brent stepped down to focus on personal matters. Rumors took care of the rest: illegal discharge, destruction of property, weapons permit under review. I'm not out here cheering for people getting arrested, but man, I believe in consequences. The best part? The solar company replaced my panels. In a month, crew was back, boots careful on the roof, bolting down new glass like it was a promise. When we flipped the system on, the inverter hummed, little numbers rolling, felt like sunrise in my chest. Here's the kicker. Folks started stopping by. Same neighbors Brent swore would ride over my panels. Now wanted to know costs, brands, tax credits. Tanya from around the corner leaned in, said, it actually looks cool, like the house is thinking. She's right. Helping out, saving a buck, doing something for the planet. All of it stacks up. The irony? The more Brent tried to freeze the future, the faster it moved in, now with brochures. No, we didn't all hug at the July cookout, but something shifted. HOA tweaked the bylaws, not to ban solar, but to add a process: placement, safety, color. The panic faded, the policing turned into neighborly nudges. Sure, there's still drama. Someone went wild with a lime green door, had to dial it back, but folks learned aesthetics aren't the same as authority. Sometimes when a car backfires, I flinch, muscle memory from that night. Sometimes I look at my panels and think, what if the shooter aimed lower? But here's what I know. You don't settle neighbor beef with a shotgun. You don't protect values by risking lives. You don't get to twist the rules just because you're used to holding the clipboard. If you're waiting for some Hollywood revenge, here it is. A month after the ruling, I walked past the clubhouse, saw a flyer, solar info night, pros and cons. New sustainability chair. Eric, who used to nod along with Brent, waved me in, asked if I'd speak on the panel. I did. Now 3 houses down the street are measuring for panels, too. People ask if I watch the old footage just to feel smug. I don't. It's not a trophy. The only thing I check. My app. Those numbers climbing with the sun, settling like a heartbeat at night. Makes me feel steady in a way no rulebook ever did. So tell me, where do you stand? How far should an HOA go in the name of community standards? When does it cross the line into control for control's sake? If your neighbor tried something new and different, legal, but different, would you fight it or ask to see how it works? Drop your stories, your letters, your own late-night calls to the cops, and tell me who you think had it right here, not just in court, but in what it means to live next to each other without losing our minds.